The Power of Saying No. A life-changing self-help audiobook. It's just a little word. 2 letters. No. And yet it's one of the hardest words for so many of us to say. We say yes when we mean no. We agree when we want to walk away. We carry the weight of everyone else's expectations on our shoulders. But here's the truth. When you learn to say no clearly, kindly, and without guilt, you take back control of your life. You reclaim your time, your energy, your peace of mind. This is The Power of Saying No, a life-changing guide to setting boundaries and living on your terms. Chapter 1. Why Saying No Feels So Hard. From the time we are children, many of us are taught that saying no is wrong. We're told it's rude to refuse someone's request. We're told it makes us selfish when we think of our own needs instead of someone else's. And worst of all, we're told that by saying no, we risk hurting other people's feelings, disappointing them, or even losing their love and approval. So it becomes a habit. We say yes, even when our hearts want to say no. We agree to take on that extra assignment at work, even though we already feel buried under deadlines. We go to family events or social gatherings we dread because we don't want to be the one who lets everyone down. We loan money we can't afford to give, spend time we don't have, and push ourselves past exhaustion, all in the name of being agreeable, helpful, or a good person. Every time we say yes to something we don't really want, a quiet little voice inside us whispers, "I don't want this. This isn't right. Why am I doing this?" But we ignore that voice because we've been taught that ignoring it is the polite, generous, and even loving thing to do. Over time, though, the cost of all those false yeses begins to add up. We start to feel stretched thin, as if our lives belong to everyone else but ourselves. We feel resentful, sometimes without even realizing why, as though the people around us are constantly taking advantage of us. We feel frustrated, helpless, and even angry at ourselves for not standing up for what we really want. What most of us don't realize is that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you're rude. It doesn't mean you don't care about others. It simply means you recognize that your own needs, time, and energy matter too, and that you have every right to protect them. You see, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you give and give to everyone else while denying yourself the rest and space you need, you will eventually run dry. You can't truly help others or show up fully for the people you love if you are constantly exhausted, resentful, and overwhelmed. You cannot live your best life when you are spending all your time trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. And here's another truth that's worth repeating. The people who truly care about you, the ones who respect and value you, will not walk away when you tell them no. They will understand. They will see that you have limits, just like everyone else, and they will respect you all the more for being honest about them. Because when you are brave enough to set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you, and you model for them what it looks like to honor yourself. Saying no is hard because it goes against the conditioning so many of us grew up with. We were raised to believe that we are only worthy when we say yes, that our value comes from what we can do for others and how much we are willing to sacrifice, that if we ever dare to put our own needs first, we are being selfish. But none of that is true. You are worthy whether you say yes or no. You are valuable, even when you protect your own peace. You are allowed to say no, and you do not need to apologize for it. Learning to say no may feel uncomfortable at first, and that's normal. But in time you will find that this little word carries enormous power. It allows you to show up as your true self. It allows you to live your own life rather than someone else's. And it frees you from the endless cycle of people-pleasing, guilt, and burnout. So the next time you feel that familiar pressure to agree, Even when your heart says no, pause. Take a breath and remind yourself of this simple truth. It is not selfish to honor your limits. It is not cruel to protect your energy. It is not wrong to say no. Saying no simply means you are brave enough to say yes to yourself. Chapter 2. The cost of always saying yes. It's easy to convince yourself that saying yes is the path of least resistance. In the moment, it feels easier to agree than to speak up. It feels safer to comply than to risk disappointing someone, creating conflict, or being misunderstood. But what we often fail to see, at least at first, is that always saying yes comes at a very real cost. When you say yes to everyone else all the time, you are effectively saying no to yourself. You are saying no to your own needs, no to your own goals, no to your own peace of mind. And over time, that quiet self-denial builds up. At first, you may not even notice it. You may convince yourself that it's just what you have to do to be a good friend, a good coworker, a good spouse, a good parent. You tell yourself it's just one more favor, one more late night at the office, one more weekend sacrificed to help someone else. And one by one, you keep giving little pieces of yourself away. But the truth is, there is nothing small about this habit. Always saying yes is exhausting. It wears you down emotionally, physically, and mentally until you feel like you are constantly running on empty. You start to feel overwhelmed, like you can never catch up, no matter how hard you try. You may wake up in the morning already dreading the day, already feeling behind, already carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. And no matter how much you do, it never seems like enough, because saying yes does not earn you peace. It only earns you more to carry. Eventually, you may begin to feel resentful, not just toward the people who ask things of you, but toward yourself for not being able to say no. You may even start to feel invisible, as though no one sees you as a person with your own needs, but only as a resource, a helper, a convenience. And that resentment, if left unchecked, can poison your relationships. It can erode your sense of self-worth. It can make you feel trapped in a life that doesn't feel like your own. For many people, always saying yes leads to burnout. Burnout is not just fatigue, it's a deep, pervasive exhaustion that drains your motivation, your joy, and your hope. It can leave you feeling hopeless and numb, as though you've lost all connection to what you truly want in life. And perhaps worst of all, saying yes to everyone else can rob you of the time and energy you need to pursue your own dreams. Every hour you spend doing something you don't want to do just to please someone else is an hour you could have spent building the life you actually want. Every time you silence your own desires to meet someone else's expectations, you push yourself further away from your own happiness. You may not notice it happening right away, but years later, you may look back and realize you've been living someone else's life. You've been climbing someone else's ladder. You've been saying yes to everyone, except yourself. The cost of always saying yes is not just exhaustion. It is the quiet erosion of who you are. It is the slow fading of your voice, your choices, and your dreams. You deserve better. You deserve to feel rested, respected, and free. You deserve a life that feels like yours. And the first step to getting there is recognizing this simple truth. Every yes has a price, and it's okay to stop paying that price when it's too high. By learning to say no, you begin to reclaim your time. You begin to restore your energy. You begin to find your way back to yourself. Because saying no is not just about refusing others. It is about finally saying yes to you. Chapter 3. What saying no really means. For many of us, saying no feels wrong because we misunderstand what it actually means. We hear the word no and immediately think of it as negative, as rejection, as shutting people out, as something that hurts others. We believe that saying no is an act of selfishness, or that it signals we don't care about the people who are asking us for something. But the truth is, saying no does not mean you don't care. It does not mean you're rejecting the person. It simply means you are acknowledging your limits and honoring them. Saying no is an act of respect, both for yourself and for the other person. No doesn't have to be harsh or cruel. It doesn't need to be angry or defensive. It can be calm, kind, and clear. It can come from a place of honesty and love, rather than guilt and fear. When you say no, you're not just protecting your own time and energy, you're also giving the other person clarity about what they can and cannot expect from you. You are refusing to make promises you can't keep. You are avoiding the resentment that builds when you say yes to things you don't want to do. And you are showing others that you respect them enough to be truthful about your boundaries. In fact, a healthy no can be a powerful way to strengthen relationships. Because when you say no to something you don't want to do, you create room for the things you genuinely do want to give. When you stop overextending yourself, you're able to show up more fully and more joyfully when you say yes. Too often, we say yes out of fear. We fear rejection. We fear disappointing people. We fear being seen as unkind or unreliable. But what we don't realize is that saying yes when we don't mean it is its own kind of dishonesty. It creates false expectations. It undermines trust. And over time, it damages not just your own well-being, but your relationships too. So what does saying no really mean? It means saying, I respect you, and I respect myself too. It means, I care enough about this relationship to be honest about what I can and cannot do. It means, I know my limits, and I'm willing to protect them. It means, I value myself enough to choose what's right for me, even if it disappoints someone else. Saying no is not about shutting others out. It's about letting yourself in. It's about making space in your life for what truly matters to you. When you say no to what you don't want to, the things that drain you, distract you, or pull you away from your values, you create room for what you do want. You create space for your goals, your joy, your peace. You create the possibility of living a life that feels like your own, instead of one shaped entirely by what other people expect from you. Saying no also helps others grow. Because when you stop doing everything for everyone, you give them the opportunity to take responsibility for themselves, to find their own solutions, to grow stronger in their own way. You allow them to see that you are a person with your own needs, and that's a lesson they will carry into their other relationships too. No is not a punishment. It is not cruel. It is not unkind. No is a gift. It is clarity. It is honesty. It is trust. It is a reminder to yourself and to others that you are not here just to serve everyone else at your own expense. You are here to live your own life in a way that honors your limits, your needs, and your heart. And every time you choose to say no calmly, kindly, and without guilt, you reclaim a little more of that life. You reclaim a little more of yourself. No is freedom. No is power. No is the doorway to everything you've been missing while you were too busy saying yes. When you begin to say no more often, you may notice something surprising. You start to feel lighter. You begin to feel more in control of your time and your choices, more at ease in your own skin. That constant hum of resentment and frustration that you used to carry everywhere begins to fade. At first, you may feel uneasy about that, because for so long, saying yes has been a way to feel needed, valued, and accepted. For many people, saying yes is tied to their sense of identity, to being the reliable one, the helpful one, the one everyone can count on. So when you start saying no, You may feel like you're letting people down. You may feel guilty or worry that others will be upset or disappointed. You may even fear that they'll stop liking you or that you'll lose their approval. These feelings are natural. It's not easy to break free from years, sometimes decades of conditioning that taught you to put yourself last. But over time, you'll begin to realize something important. The people who truly care about you don't love you for what you can do for them. They love you for who you are. And those people, the ones who matter, will not leave you just because you begin to honor your own boundaries. You'll also notice something else. The people who don't respect your no, the ones who push back, who sulk, who try to guilt you into saying yes, are usually the very ones who benefited most from you having no boundaries in the first place. And their reaction is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their expectations and their unwillingness to adjust to your new sense of self-respect. As you continue practicing no, you'll find that it gets easier. You'll discover how liberating it feels to be honest about your limits, to admit when you don't have the time, the energy, or the desire to take something on. You'll begin to see no, not as a rejection, but as a choice. Your choice to spend your time and energy in a way that aligns with your own priorities. This is one of the most profound shifts that happens when you embrace the power of no. You stop living reactively, just responding to everyone else's needs, and you begin to live intentionally. You begin to make choices based on what really matters to you. And the more you do this, the more you'll discover who you really are, beneath all those years of people-pleasing. You'll uncover your own voice, your own desires, your own dreams, and you'll finally give yourself permission to pursue them. No is not just a word you say to others. It's a word you say to yourself, a promise you make to honor what's true for you, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when others don't understand. And every time you say it, you grow stronger. Every time you say it, you reclaim a little more of your life. Every time you say it, you remind yourself and everyone around you that you matter. No is not a wall you build to shut people out. It is a boundary you set to protect what is sacred inside you. And that is what saying no really means. Saying no is more than just a response to a question. It is a profound act of self-awareness and self-respect. At its heart, no means that you know yourself well enough to recognize what is right for you and what is not. It means you have taken the time to understand your own values, your own limits, your own emotional and physical capacity. It means you're no longer willing to sacrifice your well-being just to maintain the illusion of harmony. For many people, this realization can be life-changing. We live in a culture that often celebrates overwork and selflessness as virtues, where being busy is worn like a badge of honor, and where we are taught to measure our worth by how much we do for others. But the truth is, endlessly giving of yourself without replenishing your own reserves is not noble. It is destructive. To you, and sometimes even to the people you're trying to help. When you say yes to everything, you're not really giving your best self. You're giving what little scraps of energy you have left after you've stretched yourself too thin. And over time, those around you begin to expect more and more because you've taught them that you're always available, always willing, always compliant. And when you inevitably reach your breaking point, you may find yourself lashing out in anger or withdrawing completely, which can hurt the very relationships you were trying to protect. This is why no is actually one of the most loving words you can say. No allows you to show up fully present when you do say yes. It allows you to give generously without resentment. It allows you to maintain a sense of integrity where your words and your feelings align. It allows you to build trust, because people know that when you do agree to something, you really mean it. When you say no clearly and calmly, you demonstrate confidence. You show others that you know your value and are unwilling to compromise it. And in doing so, You often inspire others to reflect on their own boundaries. You give them permission to set limits in their own lives, to respect themselves more deeply. No also fosters authenticity. Instead of pretending to be okay with something when you're not, instead of smiling on the outside while you seethe on the inside, you allow yourself to be honest with others and with yourself. This kind of honesty can feel scary at first, especially if you've spent years hiding behind false yeses. But over time, it becomes liberating, because nothing feels heavier than carrying around the weight of all the times you said yes when you really wanted to say no. And while it's true that some people may not react well to your no, that's okay. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for other people's feelings. You are not responsible for managing their disappointment or shielding them from discomfort. You are responsible only for yourself, for being clear about what you can and cannot offer, and for standing by your own needs and limits. Over time, you may even find that your relationships improve when you begin to say no. People will come to trust you more, knowing that you won't agree to something unless you truly mean it. They may feel safer with you, knowing that they can count on your honesty rather than guessing at your true feelings. And those who cannot accept your boundaries, those who withdraw, manipulate, or punish you for standing your ground, reveal themselves for who they are. And that is its own kind of clarity. No is not about shutting doors. It is about opening the right ones, the doors that lead to peace, balance, and a life you actually want to live. It is about making deliberate choices rather than being swept along by obligation and guilt. It is about choosing yourself, not because you don't care about others, but because you care enough about yourself to stop abandoning who you are. Saying no does not mean you are hard or unkind. It means you are strong. It means you are honest. It means you are free. The more you practice saying no, the more you will see it not as a rejection, but as an affirmation of your values, your time, your energy, your life. And when you fully embrace the power of no, you'll find that you don't have to apologize for it anymore. Because saying no is not a failure, it is a choice. And it is one of the most powerful, loving choices you can make for yourself and for everyone around you. When you finally allow yourself to say no truly and without apology, something inside you begins to shift. You begin to see that no is not simply a boundary you set between yourself and others. It's also a way of saying yes to yourself. Every no to something that drains you is a yes to something that nourishes you. Every no to something meaningless is a yes to what is meaningful. Every no to what diminishes you is a yes to your own dignity and wholeness. This is perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about no, that it is just a rejection of others. In reality, no is a profound affirmation of your own life. And here's another quiet truth that emerges as you learn to say no. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop second-guessing your instincts. You stop ignoring that subtle tightness in your chest or that sinking feeling in your stomach when something doesn't feel right. You stop overriding your own needs just to avoid conflict. Each time you honor that little voice inside, the one that quietly whispers, "This isn't for me," you strengthen your own inner compass. You teach yourself that your feelings matter, that you matter. This growing trust in yourself has ripple effects that reach into every corner of your life. You start to walk taller. You feel more grounded, more at ease, more present. You are less likely to be swayed by others' opinions or manipulated by guilt. You know who you are, and you know where you stand. And that quiet confidence changes how others see you too. People begin to treat you differently, with more respect, with more care. It also creates space for what truly belongs in your life. When you say no to the invitations, obligations, and expectations that no longer serve you, you create room for what does. You free up time and energy to invest in the relationships, projects, and activities that align with your deepest values. You give yourself permission to rest, to reflect, to heal, to grow. And you discover that a full, meaningful life is not one that is packed with activity, it's one that is lived on your own terms. Saying no also teaches you something profound about love. For so long, many of us believe that love means self-sacrifice, that to prove our love, we must always say yes, even when it hurts us. But real love is not about saying yes to everything. Real love is honest. Real love has boundaries. Real love says, I care about you, but I care about me too. Real love says, I will help you when I can, but not at the expense of my own health, dignity, or peace of mind. Learning to say no helps you recognize who truly loves you. Because those who love you for what you can do for them will leave when you stop doing. But those who love you for who you are will stay, and they'll honor your no as much as they honor your yes. And perhaps the most beautiful gift of all is this: when you begin to honor your own boundaries, you also become more compassionate toward others. You stop resenting them for what they ask of you, because you know you can say no. You stop judging them for having their own boundaries, because you've learned to honor yours. You stop expecting others to read your mind, because you've learned how to express what you need. And your relationships become healthier, more balanced, more real. In time, you may even find that no is not just a word you say in moments of stress or overwhelm. It becomes a way of life, a quiet strength you carry in your heart, a daily practice of self-respect, a way of walking through the world with clarity and courage. No is not just something you say. It is something you embody. It is who you become. A person who knows their worth. A person who lives in alignment with their truth. A person who is not afraid to take up space, to have needs, to set limits. A person who trusts themselves. A person who is free. And when you reach that place when no becomes a natural, graceful part of your life, you'll look back on all the times you said yes when you didn't want to, and you'll see how far you've come. Because learning to say no is not just a skill, it is a transformation. It is the path back to yourself. Chapter 4: How to Start Saying No. For many people, the hardest part of reclaiming the power of no is simply knowing where to begin. If you've spent years, even decades, saying yes out of habit, guilt, or fear, the thought of saying no can feel overwhelming. It may even feel dangerous at first, as though the very foundation of your relationships and your self-worth is at risk. But the good news is, you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to start with the hardest situation or the most demanding person in your life. You can begin small. You can begin gently. And you can begin today. The most important thing is to decide right now that your needs, your time, and your peace matter too. Because they do. And you deserve to live like they do. Here are some steps you can take to begin practicing no, one step at a time. 1. Pause before you answer. One of the easiest traps to fall into is saying yes automatically. The moment someone asks you for help, you may feel the impulse to agree before you've even thought about what's being asked. So the first step in reclaiming your no is learning to pause. When someone makes a request, you can simply say, "Let me think about that and get back to you." Or, "I need to check my schedule first, I'll let you know." This buys you time to consider the request honestly. It allows you to tune in to how you actually feel about it. Does this fit with your priorities? Do you truly want to do it, or would you be agreeing out of guilt? Will saying yes cost you your peace or energy? A pause gives you the space to choose, rather than react. 2. Start small. You don't need to start with the most intimidating situation, like telling your boss no or confronting a difficult family member. Instead, practice with low-stakes situations. Decline a dinner invitation when you're tired. Say no to a friend who asks you for a small favor you don't have time for. Let someone know you can't take a phone call tonight because you need to rest. Each time you say no in a small way, you build confidence. You prove to yourself that the world doesn't end when you say no. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. 3. Be clear and kind. Many people struggle with no because they think it has to sound harsh or rude. But a no can be both clear and kind. You don't need to over-explain or apologize excessively. A simple, polite statement is enough. Some examples. I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I can't commit to that right now. Thank you for asking, but I have to decline this time. That doesn't work for me, but I hope it goes well. You don't owe anyone a long justification for your no. Your feelings and your limits are reason enough. 4. Expect discomfort at first. It's normal to feel uncomfortable when you start saying no. You may feel guilty. You may feel like you're letting someone down. You may feel anxious about how they'll react. That's okay. This discomfort is simply the growing pain of building a new habit. It's the sign that you're learning to put yourself first, something you haven't practiced much before. And like any skill, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Remind yourself, saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you an honest person. It makes you a person who respects themselves. 5. Don't backpedal. Sometimes, after you've said no, you may feel tempted to reverse your decision, especially if the other person seems upset or disappointed. But remember, their reaction is not your responsibility. Your job is not to keep everyone happy at all times. Your job is to honor what's true for you. When you say no and stick to it, you show others that you mean what you say. You also show yourself that your boundaries matter. 6. Notice the benefits. As you begin to say no more often, take time to notice how it changes your life. You may feel less overwhelmed, less resentful, and more peaceful. You may find that you have more time and energy for the things that truly matter to you. You may even discover that some relationships grow stronger because they are no longer built on hidden resentment or quiet self-sacrifice. Celebrate these small wins. Remind yourself that every no is an investment in your own well-being. It is a step toward the life you actually want to live. 7. Be patient with yourself. Like any new habit, learning to say no takes time. You won't always get it right. Sometimes you'll say yes when you wish you'd said no. Other times you may say no clumsily and feel awkward about it. That's okay. This is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every step you take in the direction of honesty, self-respect, and peace is worth celebrating. Saying no is not something you do just once. It is something you practice again and again until it becomes a natural part of who you are. And every time you do, you strengthen your sense of self, your trust in your own voice, and your ability to live life on your own terms. Because saying no is not just about protecting your time. It's about protecting your spirit. It's about protecting your dreams. It's about protecting your peace. It is one of the most loving, powerful choices you can make. And it starts with just one word: no. As you practice saying no, you may begin to notice not just external changes like more time, clearer boundaries, and healthier relationships, but also internal ones. You may begin to feel a kind of quiet pride in yourself that you haven't felt before. It is a pride that comes not from how much you give, but from how much you honor your own limits. And this pride is what fuels your confidence to keep going. Because each no you speak affirms something powerful. That you are not just a passenger in your life. You are the driver. You are allowed to choose what you allow into your life and what you don't. You are allowed to protect your own well-being, even when it disappoints someone else. You are allowed to live a life that feels good to you, even if others don't always understand. And this is where the practice of saying no becomes something even deeper. It becomes a reflection of your self-worth. When you don't believe you matter, it's easy to say yes to everything, because you've convinced yourself that your needs come last, or that they don't matter at all. But when you begin to understand your value, when you begin to believe that your happiness and health and peace matter just as much as anyone else's, no longer feels selfish. It feels necessary. It feels right. One of the most liberating lessons you'll learn as you practice no is this: you cannot please everyone, no matter how hard you try. And no matter how much you give, there will always be someone who wishes you'd given more. So why exhaust yourself chasing a moving target? Why sacrifice your well-being for the impossible goal of universal approval? You will come to see that the people who truly love and respect you do not want you to destroy yourself to make them happy. And those who demand that you do were never truly invested in you, only in what you could give them. That clarity may feel painful at first, but it is also freeing, because you no longer have to guess who is in your corner. You will know. And the ones who stay, the ones who honor your no as much as your yes, are the ones worth keeping close. Another mindset shift that comes with saying no is realizing that you do not have to justify yourself. You don't need a long list of reasons why you can't help, why you can't attend, why you can't say yes. I can't, or that won't work for me, is enough. Your no does not have to make sense to anyone but you. When you stop over-explaining, you stop inviting debate. You stop giving others the opportunity to poke holes in your reasons and wear down your resolve. You stop asking for permission to have boundaries and start simply having them. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect. And as you practice no over and over, you'll find that it begins to feel natural, even graceful. Not harsh, not defensive, not angry, just calm, clear, firm. And eventually, you'll reach a place where no is no longer something you fear. It becomes something you trust. You trust yourself to know when to say it. You trust yourself to handle others' reactions with grace. And you trust that each no you speak is moving you closer to the life you truly want to live. Because here is what no really gives you. It gives you your time back. It gives you your energy back. It gives you your peace back. It gives you yourself back. And isn't that worth everything? So as you continue this practice, remember, you are not just learning to say a word. You are learning to live a new way, a way that honors who you are and who you are becoming. And that is something to be proud of. As you deepen your practice of saying no, you may begin to realize how much of your life you've spent on autopilot. It can be unsettling to look back and see how many yeses you gave out of habit, fear, or the desperate need to be liked. But don't let that realization turn into regret. Instead, let it fuel your resolve to do better starting now. One of the most important things you can do as you begin to say no is to stay connected to your why. Why are you learning to say no in the first place? Why does it matter to you to reclaim your time, your peace, your sense of self? For many people, the why is simple: because you are tired. Because you are worn down by carrying everyone else's burdens. Because you feel like a stranger in your own life. Because you've come to understand finally that you deserve better. Whatever your reason is, write it down. Keep it somewhere visible. When you feel the old guilt creeping in, when you hear the familiar voice telling you that you're being selfish or letting people down, come back to your why. It will remind you what you're really working toward, a life that feels like it belongs to you. You may also find it helpful to notice the language you use when you say no. At first, you might be tempted to soften it so much that it no longer sounds like a no at all. You might say things like, "Well, maybe if you really need me, I could try." Or, "I'm not sure, but okay, I guess." That is not a no. That is an invitation for others to push your boundaries. And it's a sign that you're still putting their comfort above your own clarity. So instead, practice speaking plainly. Use strong, calm, definitive language. "I can't do that. That's not something I can take on. No, thank you." You don't have to be rude to be clear, but clarity itself is kindness to yourself and to others. It's also important to anticipate that others may not always take your no well, especially if they are used to you always saying yes. At first, they may push back. They may try to guilt you. They may question you. They may even get angry. This is not a sign that you've done something wrong. It is simply evidence that you are breaking a pattern, one that benefited them but hurt you. And it's natural for people to resist change. Hold your ground anyway, because over time, those who truly care about you will learn to adjust, and those who don't may fall away. And that too is a kind of gift, because it leaves you surrounded by the people who genuinely respect your boundaries. Another practice you can try is to keep a journal of your progress. Write down each time you say no and how it feels afterward. Write down what you were afraid would happen and what actually happened. Most of the time, you'll find that the fear was worse than the reality. And the more you see that in writing, the more confident you'll become. You can also rehearse your no ahead of time, especially in situations where you know you'll be asked for something you don't want to give. Practice the words in front of a mirror. Say them out loud to yourself until they feel natural. Because the more comfortable you feel saying no privately, the easier it will be to say it publicly. And finally, remind yourself, you don't need anyone's permission to set boundaries. You don't need anyone to agree with your no for it to be valid. You don't even need to explain it if you don't want to, because the only person who has to live with the consequences of your choices is you. So make the choice that honors you, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means someone else is disappointed, because that discomfort is temporary. But the peace that comes from living in alignment with yourself, that is forever. With every no you speak, you build a stronger foundation for your own well-being. You build trust in yourself. You build a life that feels lighter, calmer, truer. And someday soon, you'll realize you're not just practicing saying no anymore. You've become someone who lives with clarity, someone who knows what they want and what they don't, someone who is unafraid to choose themselves. And that is what saying no is really about. It is not just about turning things down. It is about turning your life toward what truly matters. So take a breath and begin. Your next no is waiting, and so is your freedom. Another truth you'll come to understand as you practice saying no is that boundaries are not just about keeping others out, they are about keeping yourself whole. A boundary is not a wall that cuts you off from everyone. It is a door you open to the right people, at the right time, under the right conditions. And just as you don't let strangers wander into your home uninvited, you don't have to let every request or expectation wander into your life. This mindset can help ease some of the anxiety that comes with saying no, because it reframes the boundary not as a rejection of someone else, but as protection of what is sacred in you. You'll also discover that no is a form of self-care. In the same way you feed yourself when you're hungry, rest when you're tired, and heal when you're sick, you say no when your energy is depleted, when your plate is full, or when a request doesn't align with who you are. And just like food, sleep, and healing it is essential, not optional. For many people, the biggest challenge with saying no is not the moment itself, but the worry that comes afterward. That nagging voice, did I upset them? Do they think less of me now? Maybe I should have just said yes. This is where practicing self-reassurance becomes vital. After saying no, take a moment to remind yourself why you chose to do it. Was it to protect your time, to honor your energy, to stay true to your values, to avoid overcommitting? Those are all good reasons. You acted with integrity, and you deserve to stand by that choice. In time, you may also find that your no becomes a quiet teacher to others. It shows them that they too can set limits, that they too are allowed to choose themselves. Your no gives others permission to have boundaries, and that ripple effect can improve not just your life, but the lives of the people around you. This is why practicing no is not selfish, it is service. It is service to yourself and to the greater good. Because a world where everyone is burnt out, overextended and resentful is not a healthy world. But a world where people know how to say no calmly, kindly and confidently is a world full of honest, respectful connections. It also helps to remember that people will adjust to your no much faster than you think. What feels monumental and awkward to you may not even register as a big deal to them. And even if it does, most people respect someone who is clear and firm more than someone who is constantly bending over backward and wearing themselves out. You teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. When you demonstrate that your time and energy are valuable, others begin to value them too. As you continue practicing no, notice how your life feels. You may discover a sense of spaciousness where there used to be constant pressure. You may feel less anxious, less hurried, less weighed down by invisible obligations. You may find yourself enjoying the things you do say yes to more deeply because you chose them freely. And you may even find yourself enjoying your own company in a way you haven't for years. Because that's the beautiful thing about no. It creates space. Space to rest. Space to dream. Space to reconnect with what you really want. And space to simply be. So, take your time with this practice. Start small if you need to. Celebrate the little victories. And remember, you don't need to explain yourself, justify yourself, or feel guilty for taking care of yourself. You are allowed to choose you. Because at the end of the day, the people who matter will still be there. And the peace you create for yourself will ripple outward in ways you can't yet imagine. No is a gift. No is a teacher. No is freedom. So practice it. Speak it. Live it. And watch your life begin to change, one no at a time. As your practice of saying no deepens, you will notice something remarkable. It doesn't just change your schedule, it begins to change who you are. When you stop saying yes automatically, you become more intentional in everything you do. You stop living on someone else's terms. You stop filling your days with things that don't truly matter to you. Instead, you begin to curate your life as though it were a beautiful room. You start removing what doesn't belong, and you make space for what does. This shift also invites you to reconnect with yourself, often in ways you hadn't even realized you'd lost. When you're no longer consumed with pleasing others, you finally have the mental and emotional bandwidth to ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I actually enjoy? What makes me feel alive? Many people discover, sometimes to their surprise, that they don't actually know. They've been so focused on being what everyone else needed them to be that they've forgotten who they are. That is the quiet gift of no. It gives you back to yourself. And you'll soon see that this gift is not just for you. Because the more authentic you become, the more you act from your own truth rather than from fear or obligation, the more you inspire those around you to do the same. Your children, your friends, your colleagues, Even casual acquaintances will notice. And your boundaries may serve as an example, a quiet permission slip for others to begin setting their own. Another truth you'll come to understand is that no is a kind of filter. It reveals who genuinely values you and who only valued what you did for them. When you begin saying no, some people will push back, especially those who benefited the most from your lack of boundaries. They may sulk, they may guilt-trip you, they may even lash out. This is not your fault. It is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply evidence that they were never invested in the real you, only in your compliance. And though it may hurt, it is better to see that clearly than to continue investing yourself in one-sided relationships. The people who remain after you begin saying no. The ones who stay and respect your limits, those are the people worth your time and energy. Because their love is not conditional on your constant sacrifice. It also becomes easier to see how much of the pressure to say yes was never actually coming from other people. It was coming from inside you. From your own fears of being seen as selfish, unkind, or difficult. From your own belief that your worth depended on what you could give to others. When you challenge those internal beliefs, you begin to realize that your worth was never in question. You have always been enough even when you say no. Practical strategies can also help reinforce this mindset. For example, set a policy for yourself. You might decide, I will not agree to anything on the spot. I will always give myself 24 hours before answering. This simple rule can save you from impulsive yeses. Use a phrase, bank. Prepare a few calm, clear responses you can rely on in the moment, like, thanks for thinking of me, but I'll have to pass, or that's not something I can take on right now. Replace guilt with gratitude. Instead of thinking, I'm letting them down, reframe it as, I'm giving them my honesty and myself my peace. Track your wins. At the end of each week, write down every time you said no and how it made you feel afterward. Over time, you'll see just how much you've grown. And perhaps most importantly, forgive yourself when you slip up. There will still be times when you say yes, even though you don't mean it. That's okay. You are unlearning years sometimes, a lifetime of habits and conditioning. What matters is not that you get it right every time, but that you keep trying. Every no you speak makes the next one easier. This practice is not about becoming rigid or unkind. It's about becoming whole. It's about living a life that feels like yours. And it's about reclaiming your right to rest, to dream, to be at peace in your own skin. In time, you will notice that no longer feels like an act of rebellion. It feels like an act of love for yourself, and even for others, because you are giving everyone the gift of your truth, rather than the burden of your resentment. So keep practicing, keep choosing yourself, and remember, saying no is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new one in which you finally get to be the main character in your own life, and you deserve nothing less. Saying no to different kinds of people. As you continue to practice saying no, you'll discover that it feels different depending on who's asking. It may feel easier to say no to a casual acquaintance than to a close friend. Easier to decline a stranger than your boss. Easier to set boundaries with coworkers than with family. This is natural because each relationship carries its own dynamics and history. For example, you might find it especially difficult to say no to a parent or sibling because you were raised in a family where saying no was seen as disrespectful, or where your role was to be the responsible one. Or you may feel pressure to say yes to a partner because you fear conflict or rejection. Part of this practice is learning to notice those dynamics without letting them dictate your choices. It can help to remind yourself, no matter who the other person is, your needs are still valid. Your time and energy are still yours. And saying no even to someone you love does not mean you don't care about them. It simply means you also care about yourself. You might say, "I wish I could help, but I really can't take that on right now. I hope you understand." Or, "I care about you and I want to be there for you, but I also need to take care of myself in this moment." The more you practice, the more you'll see that your relationships actually grow stronger when you're honest about your limits. The people who truly love you will adjust, and they may even begin to respect you more for it. The role of body awareness. One powerful tool in learning to say no is tuning into your body. Our minds are good at rationalizing, telling us we should say yes or have to agree. But your body often tells the truth more clearly than your mind. Pay attention to how you feel when someone asks you for something. Do your shoulders tighten? Does your stomach drop? Does your chest feel heavy? These are often signs that your body is trying to tell you no. Conversely, when something is a true yes, you often feel lighter, more open, even energized. The more you practice noticing these signals, the more you'll be able to trust them, and the easier it will be to respond in alignment with your real feelings. Saying no without burning bridges. Sometimes you worry that saying no will damage a relationship or close a door forever, but it doesn't have to. It's all in how you communicate. You can say no in a way that leaves the door open for future opportunities or makes the other person feel respected. "I can't commit to that right now, but please keep me in mind next time. I'm going to pass this time, but I really appreciate you thinking of me. Not right now, but maybe in the future when my schedule allows." This shows that you respect them and their request, but you also respect yourself. It's possible to be kind and firm at the same time. The long-term benefits of saying no. At first, saying no may feel like a loss of approval, of connection, of being seen as the good one or the reliable one. But over time, you begin to see what you gain. You gain time. You gain peace of mind. You gain energy for what truly matters. You gain confidence in yourself. You gain clarity about your values. You gain relationships that are more authentic and less transactional. Most importantly, you gain yourself. When you stop trying to please everyone else, you finally make space to please yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. You realize that your life is not here to be lived for everyone else's comfort. You have dreams of your own. You have a heart that needs care. You have a soul that longs to feel whole. And saying no is how you protect those things. Saying no as a daily practice. Finally, remember, saying no is not just something you do once in a while. It is a daily practice. Every day brings opportunities to honor yourself. Every day offers you the chance to choose what stays and what goes. Every no you speak strengthens your sense of self and moves you closer to the life you truly want to live. So practice it, even in small ways. No, I won't answer emails after 7 p.m. No, I won't agree to plans I don't actually enjoy. No, I won't let guilt dictate my choices. No, I won't betray myself just to keep the peace. Each no is an act of courage. Each no is a step toward freedom. And each no brings you closer to the life you deserve. Keep going. It gets easier. And you are worth it. No is a complete sentence. One of the most liberating truths you can learn as you practice saying no is this. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your decision. You don't have to craft a detailed story about why you can't help or why you're unavailable. You can simply say, no. It may feel blunt at first, especially if you've spent years cushioning every refusal with apologies and excuses. But the more you practice, the more you'll see the power of simplicity. People tend to respect clarity more than they respect endless explanations. In fact, the more you explain, the more you invite argument. The more you justify, the more room you give them to poke holes in your reasoning. So allow yourself to simply say, "No," or "No, that doesn't work for me," or "No, thank you," and leave it at that. No is enough. You are enough. Saying no to yourself. One of the most overlooked and most transformative parts of this practice is learning to say no not just to others, but to yourself. To the part of you that wants to say yes to everything because it fears missing out. To the voice inside that tells you your worth depends on your productivity or other people's approval. To the habits that keep you stuck in cycles of overcommitment and burnout. When you say no to yourself, you reclaim control over your impulses and your patterns. You learn to pause and ask, "Do I really want this? Or am I just trying to please someone else? Am I just trying to avoid conflict? Am I just afraid of what will happen if I say no?" Saying no to yourself can sound like, "No, I don't need to check my work email at midnight. No, I don't need to take on one more project just to prove myself. No, I don't need to agree to plans just because I'm afraid they'll stop inviting me if I say no." In this way, no becomes an act of self-mastery. It is you choosing your highest good over your momentary fears. The ripple effect of your no. When you practice saying no, you're not just helping yourself. You're also creating ripples in your family, your workplace, your community. You're modeling what it looks like to live with integrity. You're showing your children, your friends, your colleagues that it's okay to honor their needs and to speak their truth. Your no gives them permission to protect their peace too. And as more people set healthy boundaries, the collective culture begins to shift away from guilt, people-pleasing, and burnout, and toward honesty, respect, and balance. So your no is never selfish. It is revolutionary. It is leadership. Visualizing your yes. Saying no becomes easier when you're clear on what you're saying yes to instead. Every no makes room for a yes to rest, to health, to joy, to the things and people that truly matter to you. When you feel conflicted about saying no, try this. Close your eyes and picture what you're making space for by refusing this request. Maybe it's a quiet evening at home with your family. Maybe it's the energy to go to the gym and take care of your body. Maybe it's the freedom to finally work on your passion project. Let that vision strengthen your resolve. Let it remind you why this no is worth it. Because no is never just about what you're turning down, it's also about what you're creating, preparing for pushback. No matter how kind and clear you are, not everyone will take your no gracefully. Some people may guilt trip you, argue with you, or try to wear you down. That's okay. Their discomfort does not mean you're wrong. It just means they're adjusting to the fact that you are no longer willing to overextend yourself for their comfort. It may help to have a few neutral phrases ready for when someone challenges your no. "I understand you're disappointed, but my answer is still no. I wish I could help, but I just can't. I know this is hard to hear, but I have to honor my limits." And then, stop talking. Let the silence stand. Hold your boundary with quiet confidence. People may not like it at first, but they will learn to respect it. The emotional rewards of no. As you grow more comfortable saying no, you may notice some surprising emotional rewards. You feel lighter, freer, more in control of your life. You feel less resentment toward others because you're no longer overextending yourself. You feel calmer because your schedule and your mind are less cluttered. You feel more connected to yourself because you're living in alignment with your own values and needs. And perhaps most beautifully of all, you begin to trust yourself again. You stop second-guessing your worth. You stop betraying yourself to keep the peace. You stop living everyone else's life and finally start living your own. A daily affirmation. As you close this chapter and move forward into your practice, keep this affirmation close to your heart. Every no I speak is an act of love for myself and for the life I deserve. Say it often. Write it down. Let it guide you. Because every no you speak brings you one step closer to a life of peace, purpose, and authenticity. And you deserve nothing less. Chapter 5. Saying no without guilt. For many people, the hardest part of saying no is not the no itself, it's what comes after. It's the sinking feeling in your chest. It's the second guessing in your mind. It's the whisper, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should have just said yes. Even after you set a boundary, you may find yourself lying awake at night, replaying the conversation, wondering if they're angry at you, worried you've disappointed someone you care about, feeling a deep, familiar guilt settle in your stomach. If that sounds like you know this, you are not alone. And more importantly, you have done nothing wrong. Why we feel guilty. To understand how to move past guilt, it helps to understand where it comes from. Most of us grew up in cultures, families, or workplaces that taught us subtly or directly that it was our job to make others happy. That saying yes was polite. That putting others first was good. That saying no was selfish, rude, or even cruel. So every time you say no, you are going against years, sometimes decades of conditioning. And of course that feels uncomfortable at first. Of course your body reacts with guilt. It thinks it's keeping you safe. It thinks it's protecting your place in the group, avoiding conflict, maintaining harmony. But here's the truth. Guilt does not mean you've done something wrong. It simply means you've done something new. Something unfamiliar. Something brave. Reframing guilt as growth. What if you could see guilt not as a signal to stop, but as a sign that you're growing? That discomfort you feel is your old self making way for your true self. Because here's what you know, deep down, you can't keep living your life just to please everyone else. You can't keep saying yes while silently screaming no inside. You can't keep betraying yourself just to avoid a little awkwardness. And so guilt becomes a teacher. It shows you where you still have work to do. It shows you where you're still holding on to old stories about who you should be. And it invites you to let those stories go. The goal is not to never feel guilt again. That may take time. The goal is to feel it, acknowledge it, and keep going anyway. Because the more you practice, the quieter that guilt becomes. And one day, you realize it's not there at all. The difference between guilt and responsibility. Another reason people feel guilt after saying no is because they confuse guilt with responsibility. You are responsible for your choices, but you are not responsible for other people's feelings. You are not responsible for their disappointment, their frustration, or their discomfort, especially when all you've done is honor your own limits. You can care about someone without carrying their emotions for them. You can empathize without enabling. You can be kind without abandoning yourself. Letting others sit with their own feelings is not unkind, it's honest. And it allows them to grow too. Learning to sit with discomfort. At first, the discomfort of saying no may feel almost unbearable. You may want to immediately rush in and take it back. You may feel the urge to send a text, make a call, soften the blow, offer to compromise. Pause. Let the discomfort be there. Let it wash over you without acting on it. Breathe into it. Tell yourself, this is just a feeling, it will pass, and I'm still allowed to have boundaries. Because the truth is, most of the time the other person has already moved on. It is you who is still carrying the weight. So, put it down. Trust that you have done nothing wrong. Replace guilt with gratitude. Another powerful tool is to replace guilt with gratitude. When you start to feel guilty, shift your focus. Instead of thinking about who you may have disappointed, think about what you've protected. Your time, your energy, your mental health, your relationships, your integrity. Say to yourself, I am grateful that I honored my limits. I am grateful that I chose myself. I am grateful that I spoke my truth. This practice trains your brain to associate saying no, not with shame, but with self-respect. Watch your language. The words you use when saying no can also help reduce guilt. Instead of apologizing, I'm so sorry I can't try, affirming, that doesn't work for me. Instead of minimizing, I'm just really busy, try standing firm. That's not something I can take on right now. The way you speak to others teaches them how to treat you. And the way you speak to yourself teaches you how to see yourself. A quiet confidence. As you continue this practice, you'll develop a quiet confidence. You'll begin to notice that saying no longer feels like a battle. It feels like a natural part of who you are. You'll begin to trust that the world doesn't fall apart when you decline. You'll begin to see that most people adapt, and some even respect you more for your clarity. And you'll begin to feel lighter, free from the heavy burden of guilt that once followed you everywhere. Because here's the secret. When you say no to what isn't yours, you say yes to what is. And there is no guilt in living the life that was meant for you. A final thought. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to put yourself first sometimes. And you are allowed to live your life without being weighed down by guilt for simply being human. Each no you speak is an act of self-trust. Each no you speak is a promise to yourself that you will not abandon yourself again. So, say it, mean it, and then let yourself feel proud, because you deserve to live free. Rewriting the stories that fuel guilt. Part of moving beyond guilt is uncovering the hidden stories you've been telling yourself, often without realizing it. When you feel guilty for saying no, ask yourself, what do I believe will happen if I don't say yes? Common answers are, they'll think I don't care. They'll stop liking me. I'll seem selfish or rude. I'll miss out on something important. These beliefs are old scripts. They were written for you by parents, teachers, culture, or past experiences, but they are not truths. And now it's time to write new ones. Try replacing those old thoughts with, I can care about someone and still have boundaries. Healthy relationships survive honesty. I deserve to take care of myself. If this opportunity is truly meant for me, it will come back around. When guilt arises, it's not a sign you're wrong, it's a signal that you're rewriting your story. Each time you practice this reframing, you weaken the hold of the old belief and strengthen the new one. Notice the double standard. One exercise that helps release guilt is to imagine the situation reversed. If your friend, your partner, or your coworker said no to you in the same situation, how would you feel? Would you think less of them? Would you judge them? Would you stop liking them? Chances are you'd respect them for being honest. You'd understand they had other priorities or limits. You might even feel relieved that they didn't overextend themselves. So why hold yourself to a harsher standard? What you grant to others, understanding, forgiveness, respect, you are allowed to grant to yourself. The difference between guilt and shame. It's also important to distinguish between guilt and shame, because they feel similar, but they are not the same. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am wrong. When you say no and feel guilty, that can be worked through with self-compassion and practice. But when you feel shame, it's a deeper wound, a belief that your very self is flawed because you chose to honor your needs. If you notice shame rising, gently remind yourself, my worth is not tied to how much I do for others. Saying no does not make me bad, it makes me whole. Healing shame may take longer, but it begins the same way. By choosing to treat yourself with kindness, even when your inner critic is loud. Practice saying no in safe spaces. You don't have to tackle your biggest, scariest no's first. Start small. Practice with people you trust. Practice in low-stakes situations. Say no to the telemarketer. Say no to the extra work assignment that's not yours. Say no to the acquaintance inviting you to something you don't want to attend. Each time you do it, notice how it feels. Notice how the world keeps turning. Notice how people move on. These little moments build your confidence and help diminish guilt over time. Ground yourself after saying no. If guilt still bubbles up after you say no, take a few moments to ground yourself. Take 3 deep, slow breaths. Place a hand on your heart and say, I am allowed to have limits. I have done nothing wrong. Write down why you said no, what it protects, what it makes possible. Distract yourself with something soothing or joyful to keep you from spiraling into overthinking. You cannot control how others respond, but you can choose to stay rooted in your own truth. The long game. Finally, remember, setting boundaries and letting go of guilt is a long game. Some days will feel easy. Some days you'll fall back into old patterns. That's okay. That's normal. Growth is never a straight line. Every time you say no, you are planting a seed. You may not see the results overnight, but slowly, your garden will change. It will fill with peace, with balance, with freedom. And one day you will look back at who you used to be, the version of you who said yes out of fear, who carried guilt like a burden, and you will feel proud, because you will see how far you've come. A closing reflection. It's okay to feel guilty sometimes. It's okay to feel uncomfortable sometimes. That is simply the cost of growth. But you are not selfish. You are not wrong. You are not bad. You are learning how to take care of yourself. You are learning how to live in alignment with who you really are. And you are learning that your worth is not tied to anyone else's approval. So breathe, trust yourself, and keep going. The guilt will fade, but the peace you gain will last. Why guilt feels so heavy, and why it's lying to you. Guilt is a powerful emotion because it disguises itself as morality. It whispers, you're being a bad friend, you're being selfish, you're hurting someone. It makes you feel as though your refusal has somehow violated a sacred duty. But here's what you must remember. Guilt is not always an accurate guide. Sometimes guilt is just your inner people-pleaser, panicking because it no longer feels in control. Sometimes guilt is just a habit, a reflex you learned as a child when you were taught to put others ahead of yourself at any cost. Sometimes guilt is just fear, wearing a different mask. So when guilt rises, pause and ask yourself, am I actually doing harm, or am I just choosing myself for once? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize the guilt is misplaced. You are not causing harm simply by saying no. You are simply refusing to abandon yourself. And that is nothing to feel ashamed of. The cost of saying yes to avoid guilt. We often assume saying yes is the kind thing to do, but is it really? When you say yes out of guilt, you often end up showing up resentfully, half-heartedly, or exhausted. You give others a hollow version of yourself, distracted, depleted, and distant. You say yes with your mouth, but no with your heart. That isn't kindness. That's self-betrayal disguised as generosity. And it doesn't serve anyone. It is more honest and more loving to give someone your no now than to give them a bitter, reluctant yes and silently resent them for it later, when guilt persists. For some, even knowing all of this doesn't make guilt vanish overnight. That's okay. You can learn to coexist with guilt for a while. You can feel it but not obey it. You can hear its voice but not believe its lies. It helps to develop little rituals for moments when guilt feels loud. Some people journal, "I feel guilty because..." But I know I deserve to say no because. Some people stand in front of a mirror and say, "You made the right choice. You don't have to apologize for taking care of yourself." Some people take a walk, breathe deeply, and remind themselves, "Discomfort is temporary. Peace is worth it." Guilt loses its power when you stop trying to push it away and simply let it pass through you. Stories from real life. It may help to hear that you're not alone. One woman said, "The first time I told my boss I couldn't take on another project, I felt sick for hours. I kept imagining him being disappointed, thinking I wasn't a team player. But the next day, he thanked me for being honest and said he respected me for knowing my limits." A young man shared, "I said no to going to my friend's party because I was exhausted. I felt like a terrible friend all night, but then she texted me the next day and said she was proud of me for taking care of myself." And another said, "I thought saying no would ruin my relationship, but instead it showed me which people really loved me, for me, not for what I could give them." These stories remind us, the fear of saying no is almost always worse than the reality. Affirmations for releasing guilt. If you struggle with guilt after saying no, repeat one or more of these affirmations to yourself. It's okay to put myself first sometimes. I can love others and still honor my limits. I don't need to earn my worth through self-sacrifice. People who truly care about me will understand. I release the need to please everyone. My no is a gift of honesty to myself and others. Say these daily. Write them down. Tape them to your bathroom mirror if you need to. In time, they will start to feel true in your bones. The beauty of no without guilt. Eventually, you reach a place where no longer feels like a confession. It feels like a calm, confident choice. You no longer feel the need to justify or over-explain. You no longer rehearse excuses in your head. You no longer lie awake wondering if you disappointed someone. You simply say, no, and you trust that no is enough, because you are enough. And then, something even more beautiful happens. When you let go of guilt, you create space for joy. You find that your yeses feel lighter because they come from a genuine place. You find that your relationships are stronger because they are built on honesty. You find that your heart is quieter because you are no longer at war with yourself. A final word on guilt. Guilt is like a shadow. It will follow you for a while. But the more you walk toward the light of your own truth, the smaller that shadow becomes. Until one day you turn around and it's gone. So keep walking. Keep choosing yourself. Keep saying no when you need to. Even when guilt whispers in your ear. Even when it feels uncomfortable. Because you deserve a life of peace, purpose, and authenticity. And guilt has no place in that life anymore. Understanding cultural and family guilt. Sometimes guilt doesn't come just from your own mind. It comes from generations of expectations. Perhaps you were raised in a culture or household where self-sacrifice was seen as the highest virtue, where being a good daughter meant putting everyone else first, where being a good man meant never saying no to hard work, no matter the cost to yourself, where being a friend or sibling or employee meant being endlessly available. When you begin saying no, you're not just pushing against the expectations of one person, you're pushing against the weight of history. That can feel almost unbearable at first. You might even hear the voices of your parents, grandparents, or teachers in your head, accusing you. That's not how we raised you. Don't be selfish. Family comes first. You're letting everyone down. But here's the truth. Saying no is not a betrayal of your roots. It is a way to honor them by becoming a fuller, healthier, truer version of yourself. Your ancestors didn't endure everything they did just so you could live your life drained and diminished. They wanted better for you, and better starts with boundaries. The myth of being indispensable. Another source of guilt comes from believing the myth that you are indispensable, that if you say no, everything will fall apart. The project won't get done. The team won't succeed. Your friend won't recover. Your family won't function. This belief keeps you trapped in overcommitment, and it is almost never true. Life goes on. People adapt. Others step up. And you realize over time that you are not the only one holding the world together, nor should you be. It's not your job to fix everything. It's not your job to carry everyone. Your only job is to live with integrity and take care of yourself, so you can show up fully when it really matters. Let go of the myth. The world will keep turning even when you say no. How guilt changes over time. In the early days of practicing no, guilt can feel sharp and constant. You might feel it with every refusal, big or small. But over time, it softens. It becomes quieter. It doesn't stay as long. It visits less often. Eventually, you feel something else in its place. Pride, calm, even joy. You find yourself smiling after you set a boundary instead of panicking. You find yourself breathing deeper instead of holding your breath. You find yourself standing taller because you've stopped shrinking yourself to fit others' expectations. This is the long-term reward of your practice. It's worth every awkward moment. Reconnecting to your values. One of the best antidotes to guilt is clarity about what truly matters to you. When you feel guilty about saying no, ask yourself, what am I saying yes to instead? Maybe you said no to working overtime and yes to reading to your child before bed. Maybe you said no to another social event and yes to much-needed rest. Maybe you said no to helping someone who drains you and yes to preserving your energy for the people you love. Every no serves a bigger yes. Write your yes down. Keep it visible. It will remind you why this boundary matters. Compassion for yourself. You will slip up sometimes. You will say yes when you meant no. You will feel guilty even though you know better. You will overthink your decisions. That's okay. You are learning a skill that no one ever taught you. You are undoing decades of habits. You are building a whole new relationship with yourself. So be kind to yourself when guilt comes knocking. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to a dear friend. I know this feels hard right now, but you are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say no. That self-compassion is a key part of your healing. The power of silence. Finally, remember, you don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to fill every silence with excuses. You don't have to prove why your no is justified. You don't have to make yourself smaller so that others don't feel uncomfortable. Sometimes the most powerful way to say no is simply to say no, and then stay quiet. Let the other person sit with it. Let the boundary speak for itself. You'll be amazed how often people respect a quiet, confident no, even if they don't say so out loud. A closing invitation. If guilt still feels big right now, that's okay. It's just part of the process. Keep practicing. Keep honoring your needs. Keep choosing yourself. One no at a time. You are not hurting anyone by living your truth. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. You are not bad for setting limits. You are simply learning to love yourself enough to stop abandoning yourself. And that is nothing to feel guilty about. The illusion of control. Sometimes we say yes because we think we're holding everything together. We believe, if I don't do it, it won't get done right. If I say no, it will all fall apart. If I don't keep everyone happy, they'll leave me. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You never had that kind of control. People will still feel disappointed sometimes. Things won't always go perfectly. And yet, life continues. When you say no and let go of guilt, you learn to trust other people to handle their own feelings, and you trust life to unfold without you having to micromanage it. It is not your job to rescue everyone. It is not your job to fix everything. It is not your job to keep every plate spinning. Your only job is to live with integrity and take care of yourself so that you can show up whole. The danger of chronic guilt. Unchecked, guilt becomes corrosive. People who chronically say yes out of guilt end up feeling resentful and burned out. They lose touch with who they are and what they actually want. They become bitter toward the very people they were trying to help. They struggle to trust themselves. Saying no, even when it feels hard, is how you break that cycle. It is how you protect not only your time and energy, but also your spirit. When you say no without guilt, you are not being selfish, you are being wise. Advanced mental reframes. When guilt arises, practice these mental shifts. From, I'm hurting them. I'm being honest with them. You're not hurting them by saying no. You're saving them from false expectations and shallow promises. From, I'm being rude. I'm being clear. Clarity is kindness. People can adjust much faster to a firm no than to a reluctant yes. From, I'm letting them down. I'm letting myself stand up. Every time you say no, you stand taller in your own life. From, I owe them, I owe myself. You don't owe endless access to anyone. You do owe yourself peace. Language that lightens guilt. If the idea of saying no flatly feels too harsh at first, you can use softer but still firm language while you build confidence. Here are some options. Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't. That won't work for me right now. I'm not available for that, but I hope it goes well. I appreciate you asking, but I'm going to pass this time. I need to focus on other priorities right now. No, but thank you for understanding. These phrases communicate your boundary while still feeling warm. Over time, you may find you don't even need softeners, but they can help at first. Visualize the aftermath. When guilt feels overwhelming, take a moment to visualize what happens after you say no. Imagine yourself coming home, sinking into your favorite chair, feeling relief instead of dread. Imagine having the energy to do the things that matter to you, resting, creating, connecting with loved ones. Imagine the person you said no to figuring it out, finding another solution, moving on. Most of the time, reality is far less dramatic than our guilt predicts. And the quiet peace you feel on the other side is worth it. Gratitude for boundaries. One beautiful way to soften guilt is to think of someone who said no to you and how much you respected them for it. Maybe it was a colleague who declined extra work to protect their weekends. Maybe it was a friend who admitted they didn't have the bandwidth to talk that night. Maybe it was a partner who told you honestly that they needed space. Did you hate them for it, or did you admire their clarity and wish you could do the same? Now you have the chance to model that same strength for yourself and for others. You are teaching those around you that it's okay to have limits. The guilt-free no. With practice, you will come to see that no is not a rejection. It is simply information. It says nothing about your worth or your love for others. It is simply a way of saying, this is what I have to give right now, and this is what I don't. And when you say it without guilt, it becomes a gift. To yourself, because you honor your needs. To others, because you stop pretending and start being honest. To the world, because you show up in your life fully present, not drained. Beyond guilt, the freedom of no. At the end of this journey, you will feel something extraordinary. Freedom. You will no longer fear the phone buzzing with another request. You will no longer dread conversations where someone asks for more than you can give. You will no longer lie awake replaying your refusal over and over. Instead, you will feel calm, clear, confident. You will trust yourself to know what is yours to carry and what isn't. You will feel lighter because guilt no longer weighs you down. And you will finally see that saying no is not just a skill, it is an act of self-love. Closing reflection. Every no you speak teaches the world how to treat you. Every no you speak teaches yourself that you are worthy of care and respect. Every no you speak clears space for the beautiful, authentic life waiting for you. So when guilt whispers, remember, it is just an echo of the past. You don't have to listen anymore. You don't have to apologize anymore. You don't have to shrink anymore. Stand tall. Say no when you need to. Feel proud of yourself for choosing yourself, because you deserve to live your life free from guilt and full of grace. Why saying no is an act of integrity. It may feel at first that saying no is somehow dishonest, as though you are withholding help, love, or care that you owe to someone else. But the opposite is true. Saying no is one of the most honest things you can do. When you say yes but you don't mean it, you betray yourself. But you also betray the other person because you are giving them a false promise. You show up reluctantly, half-heartedly, distracted, drained. They can feel it even if you try to hide it. When you say no, you tell the truth. You say, "This is where I end. This is what I can give, and no more." That is not selfish, that is integrity. And in the long run, people come to trust and respect you more when they know your yes actually means yes. The difference between guilt and grief. Another way to understand the heaviness you feel after saying no is to reframe it as grief instead of guilt. Sometimes saying no means letting go of something, the image of yourself as the helper, the fixer, the one everyone can count on. Sometimes it means grieving the loss of a role you've played for years. Sometimes it means grieving the fact that people may no longer treat you the same way, or that some relationships may change. That grief is natural. It is not proof that you made the wrong choice. It is simply the cost of growth. Every time you shed an old version of yourself, there is some mourning. So, allow yourself to feel it. Cry if you need to. Sit with the ache for a while, and then remind yourself, I did not abandon anyone. I simply stopped abandoning myself. Mental exercise, the guilt timeline. When guilt hits hard, it can feel endless. But if you look closely, you'll see it's temporary. Try this exercise. Think of a time in the past when you said no and felt guilty. How long did that feeling actually last? What happened after? Did the other person adjust? Did you move on? Almost always you'll see that the discomfort passed much faster than you feared. And in the end, you were glad you held your boundary. So the next time guilt arises, tell yourself, this feeling is just part of the process. It won't last forever. Why other people's discomfort isn't your emergency. You may feel guilty because the other person seems upset. They may sigh, roll their eyes, or even say something hurtful. But their reaction belongs to them. You cannot control their emotions, nor should you. If someone truly cares about you, they will learn to respect your limits. If they don't, that says more about them than it does about you. Your no may be disappointing, but it is not cruel. It is simply clear. And clarity is a gift, even if it stings at first. Journaling prompt. Releasing guilt. Write this at the top of a page. When I say no, I feel guilty because. Let yourself write without censoring. Pour out all the reasons, all the fears, all the beliefs you hold about what saying no means. Then go back and ask yourself, is this true? Where did I learn this? Do I want to keep believing it? Challenge the lies guilt tells you. Replace them with truths you want to carry forward. Visualize the future you. Close your eyes and imagine the person you want to become. Someone who feels calm, confident, unshaken by guilt. Someone who says no when they need to and doesn't over-explain. Someone who is trusted, respected, and at peace. Now ask yourself, what choices would that version of me make today? What would they say no to? How would they talk to themselves afterward? Let that vision guide you step by step toward the life you deserve. Affirmations to carry with you. Here are more affirmations you can repeat when guilt creeps in. I have the right to honor my own needs. My worth is not measured by how much I do for others. I can care for people without carrying their burdens. My no does not make me bad, it makes me whole. I trust myself to know what is right for me. The people who matter will still love me. Write them down. Say them out loud. Carry them in your heart as armor against guilt. A final invitation. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped saying yes out of guilt. How much more energy you would have. How much more joy you would feel. How much more deeply you could connect with the people who truly matter because you'd finally have the space and presence to show up fully for them. That life is possible. It starts with one word. No. Say it. Mean it. Then let go of the guilt and let yourself feel free. Because you deserve a life where your yes and your no both come from love, not fear. And that life is waiting for you. Chapter 6. Saying yes to the right things. So much of this journey has been about learning to say no, about freeing yourself from guilt, obligation, and fear. But what comes next? What do you do with all the time, energy, and emotional space you've reclaimed? You fill it carefully, intentionally with the right yeses. Because saying no is only half the story. The other half is saying yes, yes to the things that matter most. The cost of saying yes to everything. When you say yes to everything, you lose sight of what really deserves your time and presence. You end up scattered. You end up burned out. You end up living a life full of commitments, but empty of meaning. When everything gets a yes, nothing truly has your full attention. Your yes becomes diluted. It loses its power. But when you are selective, when you choose your yeses with care, they become stronger. Each yes becomes a conscious decision, a deliberate act of alignment with your values. That is where the power of this work lies. Not just in what you say no to, but in what you say yes to. Why saying yes feels risky. For many people, the word yes can also feel scary, especially after years of saying yes out of habit, then retreating in regret. When you first start to reclaim your boundaries, you may even become overly cautious, saying no to everything just to feel safe. That is normal. That is part of the process. But eventually, you will need to learn to trust yourself again, to know when your yes comes from your heart, not from fear or guilt. A yes is powerful. A yes is vulnerable. It is you saying, I want this. I choose this. I am willing to show up fully for this. When you choose wisely, your yes opens doors. It creates opportunities. It deepens relationships. It fills your life with purpose. How to know when to say yes. So how do you know when it's the right yes? Here are some questions to ask yourself. Does this align with my values? Does this bring me closer to the life I want to live? Am I saying yes because I genuinely want to, or because I feel afraid to say no? Will this drain me or energize me? Is this a yes to someone else but a no to myself? When you feel torn, pause and check in with your body. Does the idea of saying yes make you feel light, excited, calm? Or does it make you feel tight, heavy, tired? Your body often knows the truth before your mind catches up. Listen to it. The difference between a true yes and a false yes. A true yes comes from your deepest self, your values, your joy, your love. A false yes comes from fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing someone. A true yes fills you up. A false yes empties you. Here's the simplest way to tell. If it isn't a clear yes, it's probably a no. Saying yes to yourself. Often, the hardest yes is the one you say to yourself. Yes to rest. Yes to taking care of your body. Yes to pursuing your dream even though it scares you. Yes to leaving behind situations or relationships that no longer fit. Yes to the life you want, not the life others expect you to live. Saying yes to yourself often means saying no to others, and that's okay. Because you are not here to live someone else's life. You are here to live yours. What do you make space for? When you stop saying yes to everything, you make space. At first, that space may feel uncomfortable. You may feel lonely. You may feel guilty. You may wonder if you're doing the right thing. But over time, you will see what grows in that space. Deeper connections with people who truly matter. Time for creativity, rest, and joy. Energy to pursue the things that light you up inside. A sense of peace you never knew was possible. Saying yes to the right things creates a life that feels like your own, not one you're merely surviving. The courage to choose. Saying yes to the right things takes courage. It means risking disappointment, risking failure, risking rejection because you are finally showing up as yourself. It also means accepting that you cannot say yes to everything, even when all the choices seem good. You will have to prioritize. You will have to let some doors close so you can walk fully through others. But every time you choose a true yes, you become more yourself, more whole, more alive. A closing reflection. You have learned how to say no. You have learned how to let go of guilt. Now you must learn to say yes on purpose, with clarity, and without fear. Your yes is precious. It is the most powerful word you have. So, use it wisely. Use it boldly. Use it to build the life you deserve. Because every yes you speak shapes your future. So let your yes be your truth. Let your yes be your joy. Let your yes be your love letter to yourself and to the world. Saying yes is a skill, not just a feeling. We often think that saying yes to the right things will feel easy, that the right yes will always arrive as a lightning bolt of clarity, a rush of excitement. Sometimes it does, but not always. Sometimes saying yes feels quiet. Sometimes it feels risky. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable because you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. That's why saying yes is not just an instinct, it's a skill you build over time. It's a practice of paying attention to yourself, noticing what feels aligned, and choosing even when you're scared. You may stumble. You may say yes to the wrong things sometimes. That's okay. You learn by doing. Each yes teaches you something. Each choice sharpens your awareness of what truly matters. Common fears around saying yes. You may hesitate to say yes because you're afraid of failing. You're afraid of being judged. You're afraid of outgrowing the people around you. You're afraid you don't deserve it. You're afraid it will be too much. These fears are normal, but they are not reasons to stay stuck. Fear means you care. Fear means you're moving toward growth. Fear means you're alive. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if I never even try?" Instead of asking, "What if it's too much?" ask, "What if this is exactly what I need?" Instead of asking, what if people don't understand? Ask, what if the right people support me? Every yes you give yourself sends a signal, I believe in me. Saying yes creates momentum. When you start saying yes to the right things, you'll notice something interesting. Opportunities multiply. Doors open. People who align with your vision show up. Your confidence grows. That's because saying yes creates momentum. Each yes builds on the last. Each step forward reveals the next step. The hardest part is just beginning, but once you do, you'll see that life is not waiting to punish you. Life is waiting to meet you halfway. But you have to take the first step. The power of small yeses. Don't wait for the big yes, the huge life-changing moment. Start with small yeses. Say yes to drinking a glass of water when you're thirsty. Say yes to stepping outside for fresh air. Say yes to a single hour of quiet time just for you. Say yes to finishing that book you've been meaning to read. Say yes to reconnecting with someone who makes you feel alive. These small yeses matter. They build trust in yourself. They remind you that you are capable of making good choices even when no one else notices. And eventually, small yeses prepare you for bigger ones. Stories of saying yes. One woman shared, I always dreamed of painting, but I thought it was selfish. Then one day I said yes to just buying some paints. Then yes to spending an hour a week painting. Then yes to sharing my work. And now, painting is my greatest joy, and people pay me for my art. Another said, I was terrified to say yes to moving to a new city, but I realized staying where I was out of fear wasn't making me happy. So I said yes. That yes changed everything I found. New friends, a better job, and myself. And one more. I said yes to therapy. Just one session. It was hard and scary, but that yes was the beginning of my healing. Every yes shapes you. Every yes writes your story. Saying yes to relationships that matter. Not every relationship deserves your yes. But the right ones, the people who truly see you, love you, and lift you deserve your full presence. Say yes to showing up for those who matter. Say yes to making time for them. Say yes to having honest conversations, even when they're hard. Say yes to love, even when it feels vulnerable. Your relationships flourish when you choose them, rather than letting them happen by default. Questions to guide your yes. When faced with a choice, try asking yourself, does this align with the person I want to become? Does this feel like expansion or contraction? Am I choosing this because it's safe or because it's right? If I say yes, what am I saying no to? If I say no, what am I making space for? Write your answers down if you can. Clarity grows through reflection. A new way of living. Once you master saying no and saying yes, you begin living differently. You wake up each day knowing your time is your own. You feel more present in every yes you give. You feel less burdened by guilt. You feel more at peace with yourself. Your life begins to feel like yours. And that feeling is worth everything. Closing reflection. You've learned to say no to what drains you. Now, learn to say yes to what lights you up. Yes to your own growth. Yes to love and connection. Yes to joy and rest and creativity. Yes to everything that makes your life feel like home. The right yes is a doorway. Step through it. You won't regret it. Saying yes to what's yours and only yours. Not everything that comes your way is meant for you. We live in a noisy world full of requests, opportunities, and demands. People will hand you their priorities, their emergencies, their dreams, and expect you to carry them. But not everything belongs in your hands. Part of saying yes to the right things is learning to discern what's yours to carry and what isn't. When someone asks you for help, pause and ask, is this mine to handle, or is this theirs? If I say yes to this, am I abandoning something else that matters more to me? You don't need to feel guilty for choosing what is truly yours. You can still be kind, generous, and loving without saying yes to things that are not aligned with your path. The layers of a yes. Not all yeses are equal. Some yeses are light, easy decisions, little impact. Some yeses are heavy commitments that shape the next months or years of your life. Treat each layer with the care it deserves. For small yeses, ask yourself quickly, does this feel right? Does it align? For big yeses, take your time. Sleep on it. Talk to someone you trust. Make sure your yes is not just a reaction to pressure or excitement, but a conscious choice. There is strength in slow, deliberate yeses. Practicing a stronger yes. Many of us say yes halfway, then sabotage ourselves because we weren't really committed. We procrastinate. We don't show up fully. We resent the choice we made. A true yes is a commitment, not just a word. It is a decision to show up, to follow through, to honor your own word. When you say yes to something, say it with your whole self. Write it down. Block the time. Tell others. Do the work. Your yes means more when you give it your full presence. Journaling exercise. Your ideal yeses. Take out a notebook and complete these prompts. The people I want to say yes to more often are. The activities that energize me when I say yes to them are. The opportunities I want to say yes to in the next year are. When I say yes to these things, I feel. The kind of person I become when I say yes to what really matters is. Reflect on your answers. You'll begin to see patterns, and those patterns will help you say yes more wisely. Saying yes to joy. Sometimes the most radical yes you can give yourself is saying yes to joy, to rest, to laughter, to hobbies that serve no purpose but delight, to experiences that don't make you more productive or impressive, but make you feel alive. Too often we say yes only to what seems important and forget to say yes to what feels good. You deserve joy. You deserve pleasure. You deserve moments of lightness and wonder. You don't need to earn them. You only need to say yes. Scenarios to practice saying yes. Here are some real-life situations where practicing your yes can make a difference. You're invited to speak at an event you've dreamed about, but you feel nervous. Say yes, and trust that courage grows through action. A friend invites you on a spontaneous weekend trip, but you hesitate because it feels selfish. Say yes, and give yourself permission to live fully. You have an idea for a project that excites you, but you fear failure. Say yes, and honor your creative spark. Someone you love asks for time together, and you feel tempted to keep working. Say yes, and prioritize what really matters. These yeses build the life you actually want, not just the one you feel obligated to live. When saying yes feels scary, the right yes doesn't always feel safe. In fact, the right yes often feels terrifying because it pulls you out of your comfort zone and into your growth zone. Here's how to know the difference between a scary yes and a wrong yes. A scary yes feels like expansion. A wrong yes feels like shrinking. A scary yes feels vulnerable but alive. A wrong yes feels heavy and deadening. Trust the difference. Saying yes without overcommitment. One last lesson, saying yes to the right things does not mean overloading yourself. You can say yes, selectively, intentionally, and still protect your boundaries. Saying yes to one thing often means saying no to something else. You only have so much time and energy. Guard them fiercely. Give your yeses only where they count. Closing reflection. Your yes is precious. Your yes is powerful. Your yes shapes your life, one choice at a time. So choose wisely. Choose bravely. Choose yourself. And trust that every true yes brings you closer to the life you were meant to live. You've learned to say no without guilt. Now, learn to say yes without fear. Because the world needs the fullest, most alive version of you, and you deserve to feel the joy of living on your own terms. Yes to your dreams. Yes to your healing. Yes to your worth. Yes to your life. Saying yes as a declaration of who you are. Every yes you speak tells the world who you are. It signals what you value. It shows others and yourself what you stand for. If you've spent years saying yes to please others, to avoid conflict, or to feel needed, you may have lost sight of yourself. But now, you have the opportunity to reclaim your yes as an act of self-definition. When you say yes to something aligned, you're saying, "This is who I am, this is what I choose, this is my life, lived on purpose." Your yes becomes more than a response. It becomes a statement of identity. Advanced reframes. Saying yes to uncertainty. Many people struggle to say yes because they feel they must have all the answers first. They want certainty before committing. But life rarely offers guarantees. Instead, think of saying yes as an experiment. You're not promising perfection. You're agreeing to explore. When you say yes, you're saying, "I don't know where this will lead, but I trust myself enough to begin." The best opportunities often come disguised as uncertainty. Learn to welcome the unknown with a brave yes. Saying yes strengthens your future no. One of the hidden benefits of a thoughtful yes is that it makes your future no stronger. Why? Because when you're intentional about what you agree to, you become more confident saying no to everything else. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop over-explaining. You stop negotiating with your boundaries. Each aligned yes fortifies your resolve and your integrity. The yes, no journal. Here's a simple practice to strengthen your discernment. At the end of each day, write down one thing you said yes to. How did it feel? Did it align with your goals and values? One thing you said no to. How did that feel? Did you regret it, or did it feel freeing? Over time, you'll start to notice patterns in what drains you and what lights you up. Your decisions will become more instinctive and true to yourself. The emotional signature of a true yes. Learn to recognize the physical and emotional sensations of a yes that is truly yours. A sense of lightness in your chest, a little spark of excitement or curiosity, a quiet calm or inner click. Your breath feels easier, fuller. You feel energized rather than burdened. Conversely, if you feel dread, tension, or heaviness, it's often a signal to pause or decline. Your body knows. Listen to it. Reclaiming joy through yes. Saying yes is also about giving yourself permission to experience joy again. It's about remembering that your life is more than responsibilities, obligations, and roles you play for others. Say yes to sitting quietly with your morning coffee without rushing to check your phone. Dancing to a song you love, just because. Booking a trip you've been dreaming of for years. Taking a walk outside even though there's work to do. Saying what you really feel, even if your voice shakes. Joy doesn't just happen. You choose it. You say yes to it over and over in small, deliberate ways. What happens when you say yes to what you want? Here's the secret. When you say yes to what you truly want, you inspire others to do the same. People around you will notice your confidence, your clarity, your joy. You give them silent permission to honor themselves too. You stop being just another person who goes along with life's current. You become someone who charts their own course and helps others see that it's possible. This is how movements begin. This is how legacies are built. One authentic yes at a time. Affirmations to strengthen your yes. Here are affirmations you can carry with you. My yes is a gift I give to what truly matters. I say yes to what lights me up and no to what dims me. I trust myself to make choices aligned with my truth. I deserve to experience joy, even if others don't understand. Every yes I speak shapes the life I want to live. Write them down, repeat them, let them sink into your daily thinking. Closing meditation. The door of yes. Close your eyes. Picture yourself standing in front of a large, beautiful door. Carved into the wood is one word: yes. You know that beyond this door lies the life you want, your deepest values, your greatest joy, your truest self. You place your hand on the knob. It feels cool, steady. You feel your heart beat faster, not from fear, but from readiness. You take a deep breath, and you open the door. You step through. The air is warm, alive. You feel lighter. You feel clearer. You feel free. And as you stand there, you whisper to yourself, "This is who I am. This is my yes." And you smile because you know you chose it. Your next step. Tonight, before you go to bed, write down one thing, just one, you've been afraid to say yes to. It can be big or small. Something you've been putting off. Something you've been hoping for. Something you've been too busy or too scared to admit you want. Then ask yourself, what would happen if I said yes tomorrow? How would it feel? Who would I become? And then say yes. You are ready. Chapter 7. Living a balanced life of boundaries and freedom. You have come a long way. You've learned to say no without guilt. You've learned to say yes without fear. You've started to understand what you value most and how to protect it. Now the question becomes, how do you sustain this? How do you create a life where boundaries and freedom coexist every day, not as a struggle, but as a natural rhythm? Because that is what this is all about. Not just learning words like no and yes, but building a way of living that feels authentic, whole, and deeply yours. What balance really means. Balance does not mean doing everything perfectly. It does not mean dividing your time and energy into equal parts. It does not mean making everyone happy. Balance is dynamic. It shifts as your needs, your seasons, and your circumstances change. Balance means knowing when to hold back and when to step forward, knowing when to rest and when to act, knowing when to protect yourself and when to open yourself, knowing that you can be kind without being a doormat and free without being selfish. Balance is a dance, and the more you practice, the more graceful it becomes. The 3 pillars of a balanced life. To build a life of boundaries and freedom, focus on these 3 pillars. 1. Clarity. You cannot set healthy boundaries or make aligned choices if you don't know what matters to you. Spend time getting clear on your core values, your personal goals, your energy limits, your priorities in this season of life. Clarity is your compass. Without it, you'll drift. 2. Consistency. A single no is powerful. A single yes is liberating. But balance comes from consistency, showing up for yourself over and over. That means practicing your boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. It means reminding yourself what you've learned when old habits creep in. It means forgiving yourself when you falter and trying again tomorrow. Consistency builds trust in yourself and in your relationships. 3. Compassion. This is not about perfection. You will make mistakes. You will say yes when you should have said no. You will say no and then doubt yourself. Meet yourself with compassion. Every step you take is progress. Every time you honor your needs, you're rewriting old patterns. And extend that compassion to others too. When you set a boundary, people may struggle at first. When you choose a different path, some may not understand. That's okay. Give them grace, but don't sacrifice your truth. How to maintain your boundaries long term. It's easy to set boundaries when you're feeling strong and motivated. But what about when life gets messy? When you're tired? When you're afraid of conflict? Here are a few habits to help you maintain your boundaries over time. Check in with yourself daily. Ask, what do I need today? What can I give? What is too much? Review your commitments regularly. Drop what no longer serves you. Have scripts ready. Practice simple, kind ways to say no or yes when you feel caught off guard. Rest often. You cannot enforce your boundaries when you're depleted. Celebrate your wins. Notice when you stand up for yourself and feel proud. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. You choose when and how to open them. Freedom through boundaries. It may seem counterintuitive, but the better your boundaries, the freer you become. When you say no to what drains you, you gain energy for what excites you. When you protect your time, you make space for what you love. When you honor your needs, you feel lighter, clearer, and more alive. Boundaries are not a cage. They are the frame around the life you truly want. And within that frame, you can paint anything you choose. A balanced week. Practical ideas. To help you put this into practice, here are some simple ways to weave boundaries and freedom into your week. Block one evening just for yourself, no work, no obligations. Say yes to one thing that feels joyful but a little scary. Say no to one thing you don't have the energy or desire for. Take a full hour offline, no phone, no email, no distractions. Spend time with someone who truly nourishes you. Write down one boundary you want to reinforce this month. Little by little, these choices reshape your days and your life. The ripple effect. When you live with boundaries and freedom, it doesn't just change you. It changes the people around you. You show your children what self-respect looks like. You inspire your friends to honor their own limits. You teach your colleagues what is and isn't okay. You shift the energy of your relationships toward health and honesty. You give others permission to live with balance too. That is how change ripples outward. One yes, one no, one choice at a time. Closing reflection. Balance is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you create, moment by moment, day by day. It is something you return to when life pulls you away. Every time you say no to what drains you, you come back to balance. Every time you say yes to what matters, you come back to balance. And with practice, it becomes who you are, not just what you do. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to feel free. You are allowed to live your life on your terms. That is your birthright. So keep going. Keep choosing. Keep building the life you deserve, one choice at a time. Because you can. And because you are worth it. Why balance is ongoing work. One of the most common misconceptions about balance is the idea that it's a destination, something you arrive at one day and keep forever. But the truth is more nuanced. Balance is a practice, not a place. You don't get balanced and then stop paying attention. Life keeps moving. Your needs change. Your roles evolve. What felt right last year may feel wrong today. That's why living a balanced life requires ongoing self-awareness and willingness to adjust. Think of it like steering a boat. You can't set the wheel once and walk away. You must constantly adjust to winds, currents, and unseen obstacles, but always with your destination in mind. so be patient with yourself. You'll wobble sometimes. You'll overcommit. You'll isolate. You'll fall out of alignment. But you can always come back. The seasons of boundaries. Just as nature moves through seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, so do our lives. And your boundaries and freedoms may shift with each season. Spring might be a time for new beginnings, saying yes to growth and opportunities. Summer might be a time of abundance, saying yes to connection and celebration. Autumn might be a time for pruning, saying no to what no longer serves you. Winter might be a time for rest, saying yes to solitude and healing. Your job is not to keep your boundaries rigid forever. It's to stay attuned to the season you're in and adjust accordingly. What served you once may no longer fit. What you resisted before may now feel right. Trust the ebb and flow. Examples of balanced living. At work. You take on meaningful projects aligned with your skills and passions, while declining tasks that don't fit your role or values. You speak up when deadlines are unreasonable rather than silently burning out. You leave work at work, giving yourself full permission to rest at home. In relationships, you show up fully for the people who matter most, while limiting time spent with those who drain you. You practice honesty, even when it's hard, because truth builds intimacy. You make space for your needs without guilt, understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. With yourself, you listen to your body when it says, slow down, and you listen to your spirit when it says, go. You create time to simply be without obligation, without proving, without guilt. You forgive yourself quickly when you slip, and you keep going. Balanced living is not dramatic or loud. It's quiet, grounded, sustainable, and it feels like coming home to yourself. Boundaries and freedom can coexist. Many people fear that boundaries will limit them, that saying no will make their lives smaller. But in truth, boundaries create the container in which freedom can flourish. Picture a garden. Without walls or fences, weeds take over. The soil erodes. The flowers struggle to bloom. But with a clear, sturdy boundary, the garden thrives. Inside, you can plant anything you want. You can create beauty, abundance, and peace, knowing the space is protected. Boundaries are not barriers. They are containers for your freedom. They protect your time, your energy, your heart, so you can live fully. Rituals to maintain balance. Here are some simple rituals you can incorporate into your daily or weekly routine. Morning check-in. Before the day begins, ask yourself, what do I need today? Where can I give? Where must I protect? Evening review. Reflect. Did I honor my boundaries today? Did I say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't? Weekly reset. Choose one day to reset your commitments, clear your calendar of unnecessary tasks, and schedule rest and joy. Body scan. Take a few minutes to notice where you feel tension or ease your body often knows before your mind. Gratitude practice. Each night, write down 3 ways you honored yourself that day. These small practices keep you attuned to yourself and strengthen your ability to stay balanced. What freedom really feels like. Freedom is not just doing whatever you want. It is not chaos or selfishness or avoidance. Freedom is feeling unburdened by guilt and resentment. It is having the confidence to live according to your values. It is knowing that you can care for others without abandoning yourself. Freedom feels like calm mornings without dread, relationships where you feel safe and seen, work that energizes you instead of consuming you, the ability to rest, truly rest, without apologizing. Freedom feels like coming home to yourself. Final thoughts. You deserve a life that is both strong and soft. A life where your no is respected. A life where your yes is joyful. A life that feels like it belongs to you because it does. Boundaries protect your soul. Freedom expresses your soul. Together, they create balance. And balance creates a life worth living. So take everything you've learned here and begin not perfectly, but intentionally. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Trust yourself. And remember, you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to live on your terms. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to say yes. And you are allowed to create a life of balance, boundaries, and freedom, one choice at a time. Epilogue. Keep choosing you. And so we come to the end of this book, but not the end of your journey. Because this learning, this practice, this life has no finish line. You will keep meeting yourself in new ways. You will keep growing. You will keep finding deeper truths about what you need, what you value, and what you deserve. Every day will bring new choices, new chances to say no without guilt, new opportunities to say yes without fear, new moments to honor yourself and the life you are building. You will not always get it right. You will fall back into old habits sometimes. You will catch yourself saying yes when you should have said no. You will catch yourself saying no when your heart really wanted to say yes. And that's okay. You are human, and you are learning. The point is not to be perfect. The point is to stay awake, to keep choosing, to keep coming back to yourself. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to make different choices tomorrow than you made today. You are allowed to keep becoming. And through it all, remember, you are worthy of a life that feels like your own. You are worthy of joy that does not need to be justified. You are worthy of peace that no one can take from you. So keep choosing you, even when it's hard, even when it feels selfish, even when others don't understand, because you only get this one life, and you deserve to live it as fully, freely, and honestly as you can. So go. Say no when you need to. Say yes when it's right. Draw your boundaries like prayers. Step into your freedom like sunlight. And keep choosing you. Again and again and again. The world doesn't need another person who pleases everyone. The world needs you. Fully, truly, boldly. So take a breath and begin.